Only a few nations have demonstrated their ability to produce their main combat tanks in the previous 40 years. Israel, one of the world's smallest nations, is one of these tank powers. One of the best designed tanks ever made is Israel's primary battle tank, the Merkava series. How powerful is it on the battlefield? What is the main X factor that makes it stand out in the war? In today's episode, we will discuss Israel's Merkava tank. After Israel gained its independence in 1948, the Israeli Defense Forces were established. To stave against attacks from nearby Arab nations, the IDF pieced together a small, Spartan tank force. The Six-Day War was essentially won when Israel's Armored Corps launched a blitz across the Sinai Peninsula and into the Golan Heights in 1967. By the 1956 conflict, the situation had much improved. The British Centurion and American M48 tanks smashed the enemy and quickly ended the battle. Some of Israel's European friends did not support its preemptive strike on its neighbors. An Israeli-British collaborative initiative to construct tanks was scrapped. France imposed a ban on additional Mirage fighter aircraft and missile boat supplies. Israel learned from this experience to become less dependent on foreign nations for its arms, and in 1970, the IDF started to create its tank. Major General Israel Tal, a former commander of the IDF Armored Corps who led the 84th Armored Division to victory in the Sinai, was tasked with creating an Israeli tank. Since Israel's military-industrial complex was still developing and there had never been a large armored vehicle, Tal's idea posed several difficulties. Starting from scratch, Tal might design a tank from the ground up, incorporating Israel's tank warfare expertise. A modern tank is defined by three characteristics: protection, speed, and cross-country operation and firepower. Some nations that produce tanks place more emphasis on one or two characteristics than others. When it came to Israel, Tal put his safety first. Due to its tiny population, Israel suffered even minor combat casualties keenly. Therefore, a focus on protection would limit personnel losses. Protection also ensured that tank crews may live to fight another day, enabling tankers to keep putting their expertise and experience to use. The Israeli tank would then place a higher priority on its firepower, because survival aside, destroying enemy tanks was the only way to win a war. Last on the list was mobility. Due to its tiny size, Israel was unlikely to engage in lengthy campaigns over extensive distances. The Israeli tank's focus on defense was evident in several ways. The tank's hull and turret were constructed with acute angles to improve armor thickness by sloping, and it had thick-spaced armor with a local design. The tank now had a sleek, cutting-edge appearance. The crew had additional protection in case an anti-tank round pierced the frontal armor, thanks to the engine and transmission being placed at the front of the tank, which defied tank convention. To reduce the possibility of an ammo explosion, the flammable hydraulic turret control system that burnt several Israeli tankers during the 1973 war was replaced with an electric control system, and ammunition was kept in fireproof canisters until it was needed. The Centurion, Patton, and M60 tanks of the IDF all have 105mm M68 main guns, and so did this tank. The tank had a slightly above-average 62 rounds for the main gun, ensuring that it could fight through a lack of ammunition. The tank had 3 machine guns, including an extra 12.7 and 7.62mm machine gun on top for the commander and loader, as well as the coaxial 7.62mm machine gun alongside the main cannon. These were effective against enemy troops, soft-skin vehicles, and anti-tank missile teams, including the AT-3 Saga crews, who suffered a great deal during the Yom Kippur War in 1973. A command-operated anti-tank missile could be diverted by a burst of machine gun fire above the heads of the missile operator, sparing a tank and its crew. The Israeli tank had 3 aims, with mobility being the least important of them. It had a horsepower-to-weight ratio of 14.5 to 1, with a 900 horsepower diesel engine powering a 63-ton hull. As a result, the Merkava's top speed was only 28 miles per hour, which was somewhat slow. This contrasted with the American M1 Abrams, which had a maximum speed limit of 45 miles an hour and a horsepower-to-weight ratio of 25 to 1. it's difficult to argue against making transportation the lowest priority, given that Israel is only 263 miles across at its widest point. In May 1979, the Merkava, or Chariot, a new tank, was presented. The tank was unique compared to anything else used by other armies, especially those of the US and the Soviet Union. In the Bekaa Valley in 1982, the Merkava engaged Syrian T-72 tanks, built by the Soviet Union for the first time in combat. At distances of up to 4,000 meters, Merkavas destroyed several T-72s without suffering damage from even one T-72. Due to Israel's repeated battles, new and gradually better Merkava tanks have emerged as a result of a steady flow of combat experience. Incorporating a new, rebuilt turret, explosive reactive armor, and modular passive armor for quicker battle damage repair, the latest tank, the Merkava 4, keeps the Merkava 1's design principles. With 58 rounds, including the Lahat anti-tank guided missile, it has a 120mm main gun that is larger and has 18 more rounds than the M1A2 Abrams, with comparable armament. The tank is faster because of the larger 1,500 horsepower engine, which increases the horsepower-to-weight ratio to 23.8 to 1. The Trophy Active Protection System defends the Merkava by shooting down opponent tank gun rounds, rockets, and anti-tank guided missiles using turret-mounted sensors and explosively produced projectiles. The Trophy has a history of success in warfare, having protected numerous Merkava 4 tanks and their men against Hamas anti-tank guns during Operation Protective Edge in the Gaza Strip in 2014. This year, Israeli tankers will also test Iron Vision, an augmented reality system that combines distributed aperture technology with virtual reality goggles to let operators see outside of their tanks. Merkava is an unorthodox tank in the realm of heavy armor and a successful combatant. It is the ideal main battle tank for the Israeli Defense Forces, yet it is not the right tank for every force. As crucial as tanks are to Israel's security, work on a replacement for the Merkava 4 has already begun, years before the current model becomes obsolete. Israel's adversaries are well aware of how difficult it will be to defeat the Merkava. Can Israel's Merkava Mark IV tanks be effective once more if there is another ground confrontation in Gaza? The most recent Merkava Mark IV models, Barak and Windbreaker, are made to confront insurgents should one break out. After battling terrorists during Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Israelis upgraded their Merkava Mark IV tanks. They gained insight into Hamas's strategies, specifically the terrorists' use of tunnel jumping and anti-tank missiles fired at the Merkava 4. The Merkava Mark IV tanks of Israel did effectively against anti-tank guided missile strikes from Hamas. The tanks protected the engineers as they located and obliterated Hamas's subterranean networks. Throughout the 7-week Gaza war, Israel did not lose a single tank. The Operation Protective Edge after-action analysis found that the tanks may have even launched a deeper strike. There is a 120mm smoothbore gun on the Merkava Mark IV. A rotating storage device holds 10 rounds that can be fired right away. On whether the front-mounted engine of the Mark IV adequately protects the crew, there is some debate. The hybrid modular armor on the Mark IV is robust. It is clever to use the Trophy Active Defense System. It contains 4 radars that can track approaching anti-tank missiles and rocket-propelled grenades, 2 of which are in the front and 2 of which are in the back. The approaching projectile is destroyed by a shotgun blast as it closes in on the target. The U.S. Army was so pleased with the system that it spent $193 million in 2018 to equip its Abrams tank with a Trophy system. There are also new models with technological advancements. The Barak and the Windbreaker are 2 versions that the Israelis created to increase the Merkava's survivability. The smart mission computer aboard the Barak is supported by an artificial intelligence system, which enables the crew to concentrate more on controlling the tank and engaging targets. The Barak has a helmet-mounted virtual reality technology that trains the crew, making Israeli tankers more battle-ready. Personnel can see various battle simulations in this format. The Trophy system, another component of the Windbreaker, has a laser warning system for the commander and enables the tank to fire decoys to deceive and spoof anti-tank guided missiles. When performing the first analysis, it can be challenging to understand how a tank will aid in a conflict that mostly involves counter-terrorism and rocket launches in tunnel systems. This seems more appropriate for armored personnel vehicles that transport engineers and dismounted infantry for counterinsurgency operations. However, the Merkava and its variants can quickly advance into hostile territory, hold it, and establish a defensive wall. They can shield approaching soldiers and reduce the damage done by anti-tank guided missiles. Additionally, they can safeguard Israeli soldiers who are looking into tunnels. Due to this, the Merkava Mark IV and its variations are crucial tools for the battlefield. So, that's all for today's video. What do you think about Israel's Merkava tank? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you loved today's video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more similar stuff. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. We'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.